good day and welcome to a Sprout's little tips and guide to starting out tanking. This is a little video I've been wanting to do for quite a while. We're in the gorgeous landscape of Ildashir at night and, oh my word, is it lovely. At the Snail, which I actually only recently discovered there is indeed a fantastic little fountain here. Anyway, as you can see. Right, where to begin? Okay, first things first, obviously, the most important thing to always want to do when you're tanking is not only will you unlock it, which obviously, well, if when you start the game, you have the choice between Marauder or Gladiator, which will evolve into Warrior or Paladin, and just, I'm on Dark right now, so we're going to go by that sort of thing. This is your tank stance. Put it on. I will not be going through the details of each job at the moment. I will just be using a generic term at the moment, like just to get you guys started. This is your tank stance, for like Dark at least. For I'll be showing on the screen the other ones as well, like Defiance for Warrior or Iron Will for whatchamacallit, Paladin, and then of course you've got the Gunbreaker one as well. This will automatically turn off if you enter a dungeon where you get synced down. So if you are like, say, for example, level 50 and it throws you into a level 30 dungeon, your stance will turn off. Make sure you turn it back on. A lot of people do this, and I am also guilty of doing it as well. Okay, moving on. Few little things as well. Once you actually have your stance on, you will pretty much destroy everybody else in aggro. This little thing called Provoke is very much not necessary when it comes to doing like 4-man content and even raids and alliance raids, etc, unless there is an actual tank swap involved. I have seen far too many tanks who started up in this game use Provoke as a means of like aggro generation. It is not to be used in this way. I cannot help but repeat myself. It cannot be used in this way. It should not be used in this way, in fact. This is not like, I believe in World of Warcraft, like the way to keep aggro, like at least to make sure you're second or whatever, was to taunt. No, do not do that in this, please. It is definitely a faux pas and a no-no. Limit Break is pretty much unnecessary in the early levels. There's only a few fights where you really need to use a tank LB. So you don't even need to have it on your bars. I have it because of like, in case I do get those places, just as like a possibility. Or just because like the Dark One's really freaking cool when you use it, and I like to use it, so if no one else is gonna. Anyway, moving on to the generic skills you get. When you're actually pulling the packs and stuff like that, every single tank gets themselves a Rampard, Arm's Length, and Reprisal. These are your go-to skills that you want to be using when you are pulling packs of mobs. Now, the reason why I say this is, one, Rampard is a great mitigation you get at level 8. It will reduce the damage taken by 20% and its duration is 20 seconds. So it's a really long freaking mitigation skill for quite a good chunk as well. Reprisal is a 10-second duration where it will apply a debuff on the enemies, causing the damage they deal, whether it's physical, magical, whatever. Because this is the only tank which has a magic vulnerability, by 10% for 10 seconds. Now, it's a good idea to use this when as many enemies are on you as possible, so you apply it to as many as possible. And the other reason why I say to combo this with Arm's Length is it doesn't just nullify knockbacks and draw effects for 6 seconds, but it also applies the slow effect to those who are hitting you, which a lot of enemies, including those at Endwalker, like in the level 90s and stuff, will still be affected by slow when they hit you. So it will give you, and also the healer, a bit more extra time to actually sort of do things. So, how does one keep aggro then? It's like, oh, but what's it? I've been told to use Provoke. Don't! Once again, don't! And Shirk. Shirk is also something to give an idea where, like, these are skills that are kind of, they're nice to have, but you don't necessarily need to use them unless you're doing, like, high-end content. Another skill that's very useful in the early dungeons and stuff like that is not raids, not trials, or anything like not those. I believe it stops becoming useful later is low blow, except for trash, because it's a stun. This will work on bosses to interrupt. And another interrupt is if you see the red cast bar flashing, which I don't actually have a example to show, but if you do happen to see that, and this will work all the way to Endwalker and beyond because it's a mechanic that exists. Love of God, interject. This will interrupt that action, so it is something you can avoid. For example, in the Sunken Temple of Khan, or whatever it is, I believe it is, Doom. You can interject it, and you can also low blow interrupt it because of his level being low. It is a very quick cast, but it can be done. It can be done. In fact, your first example of like encounter with using interject will be the Succubus boss in Hakwin Manor. Because I can't remember if the Doom can actually be interjected, where she will cast the Astral Fire or the Astral Thunder, and you can literally use that to interrupt it. I recommend the Thunder because that is more on like the Tank Buster. So yeah. Anyway, the main thing of way to keep aggro in early dungeons stuff like that is to use your AOE skills. For example, like Unleash. Or like the warrior one where you do the cone attack and the others as well. Like every single one gets one, and they're just the better ways to do it. Just AoE, AoE, AoE. And if someone is like, say, has the aggro and they're not in your little pack of mobs, if they don't bring it over to you, you can use Provoke to bring it over because it is off the global cooldown. But if you are able to do it, just get into the habit of using stuff like Unmend, Tomahawk, Lightning Shot, or Shield Lob instead, because they should really be your go-to thing instead to use. But yeah, those are my little tips that I wanted to give out when it comes to starting tanking. I will probably go into more in depth on the tanks down the line, but not in this video because I wanted to just sort of cover the basics. But thank you very much for watching. Go out there, guys, and freaking slay. You take care. Goodbye.